In this video, you'll learn definitions for the most popular Italian musical terms. If you haven't met, hi, I'm Megan. I'm a violinist and teacher. I've been playing the violin for over 20 years. I have my bachelor's and master's degrees in violin performance, and I'm Suzuki trained. If you're enjoying my videos, the biggest thing you can do is just smash that subscribe button. It's completely free and it really helps me out a lot. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can check out the description for a private lesson inquiry, as well as my self-paced comprehensive learning program, Learn Violin Online. In this video, I'll be sharing the most popular Italian musical terms. This is by no means meant to be a comprehensive list, but I tried to include all of the ones that you might come across in all of your beginner and intermediate music. I'll be telling you how to say the terms and what they mean. I've also divided the musical terms into categories. So our first category is tempo. And tempo is an Italian term that just means speed. So these markings, these tempo markings, you'll likely see at the very beginning of your piece, and you may even see them in the middle of your piece if the piece is meant to change tempo or change speed. I'll be listing these in order from slowest to fastest. So the first is grave. No, it's not grave. It's grave. We're Italian, right? Grave or grave. But it means very slow. And it's anywhere from like quarter note equals 20 to like quarter note equals 40. After grave, we have largo, which again means extremely slow. It's a little bit faster than grave though, at around quarter note equals 40 to 50. Then we have lento, which just means slow, slowly, and it's around 50 to 60. Next up is adagio, which means slow, again, and it's about 60 to 70. Lots of different ways to say slow, right? Next up, we have andante, which literally means at a walking pace. So this is anywhere from like quarter note equals 70 to quarter note equals 85. And these BPM are all suggestions. It's by no means a hard and fast rule. After andante, we have andantino, which you might be familiar with if you've ever played Suzuki Book 1 because there's a piece called andantino. So this means at a moderate tempo, and it's slightly faster than andante at about quarter note equals 80 to 100. Then we have allegretto, which means moderately fast, which is about 100 to 120 beats per minute. And then allegro, which means fast, which is anywhere from 120 to like 150. We also have moderato, which can be added at the end of like allegro. It can be allegro moderato, adagio moderato. It can be added to the end of really all of these, most of these, and it just means like moderately. So if you see allegro moderato, it's like moderately fast, adagio moderato, moderately slow. I know, super descriptive. Then we have vivace, which means fast and lively. And this is anywhere from like 140 beats per minute to 176 beats per minute. Then we have presto, which is very fast. This is about 168 to 200 beats per minute. Then we have vivacissimo and prestissimo, which both mean just extremely fast. So this is like 200 beats per minute and above. By the way, I've also compiled a list of all of these terms, which you can grab completely free in the description. Next category is tempo changes or speed changes. So all of these terms indicate some sort of change in your speed. So the first is rallentando, which is abbreviated RAL, R-A-L-L, which means to get gradually slower. Then we have ritardando, which is abbreviated R-I-T, or retard, R-I-T-A-R-D, which again means to get gradually slower. The difference between a rallentando and a ritardando is that a rallentando is generally more free. It's not like you are gradually, like step by step getting slower. It's like you have more freedom with it. Retardando is more gradually step by step getting slower. Then we have ritenuto, which means immediately slower, stringendo, which means to get gradually faster, and accelerando, which means to get gradually faster. The difference between stringendo and accelerando is that accelerando is usually more gradual and stringendo is usually like more quickly. So maybe in a stringendo you only have like 2 or 3 bars to get to your next tempo, but in accelerando is probably like 6 to 8 to even like 12 bars. A tempo means to go back to your previous tempo. So you'll usually see this after a ritardando or a rallentando. It's just telling you to return to your original tempo. And then there's rubato, which means freely. There's no steady beat. You don't have to strictly follow the rhythm. You can kind of just play it however your heart's desire. We also have più mosso, which means more movement. Più means more, and mosso means movement. So più mosso means faster. You'll usually see this at the end of a piece. And then we have meno mosso. Meno means less, and mosso again means movement, so less movement or less motion, which means slower. Mosso and meno mosso are also sudden tempo changes, not gradual. The next category is dynamics. So first we have pianissimo, which is abbreviated PP, which is extremely soft. Then we have piano, which is abbreviated P, which means soft. Then mezzo piano, which is abbreviated MP, which means moderately soft. Mezzo forte, which is abbreviated MF, which is moderately loud. Forte, which is abbreviated F, which means loud. And fortissimo, which is abbreviated FF, and it means very loud. These again were in order, going from soft to loud. Next category is dynamic changes. So first we have a crescendo, which looks like, I can never remember, is it greater than, less than? I don't know, but it looks like this. And it means to gradually get louder. Then we have the opposite, diminuendo or decrescendo. Diminuendo and decrescendo, they mean the exact same thing. They mean to get gradually softer. Now, a really common tendency is that when you see a crescendo or when you see a diminuendo is to just like immediately get softer, and that's actually not what you want to do. At the beginning of the crescendo, you actually still want to be pretty quiet, right? So you have enough room to get loud. And same thing with the diminuendo. At the beginning of the diminuendo, you want to be pretty loud so you have room to get soft. Another dynamic change is subito. This isn't always written. You'll have like a forte and then a crescendo and then just like a random P. That is called a subito piano or a subito forte. It means suddenly piano or suddenly forte. The next category is specific techniques. So the first is arpeggio, which is abbreviated ARP. You'll also see it like this, where it has kind of like a wavy, squiggly line over a chord. And it means instead of playing the chord as all at once, to play it arpeggiated so all of the notes get played by themselves. So for example, instead of playing it like this, you would play it like this. Or just depending on the style of music. Next, we have glissando, which is notated by the word gliss, or it can also look like this, and that means to slide. So in this case, you do want to hear a pronounced slide between those two notes or getting to that note. Con sordino means to play with a mute, and us musicians actually write it in our music like this. And then senza sordino means to play without the mute. So that means you would take the mute off. Con means with, and then senza means without. Pizzicato means to pluck the string with your finger rather than to bow, rather than playing with your bow. And then arco means to play with the bow. This usually comes after a period of pizzicato. Portamento is just another word for slide, and it's notated the same way as glissando. And finally, in this category, we have tutti, which means everyone. So this usually comes after like a solo, or if you're playing a concerto, you might see tutti and solo. When you see tutti, that means that the first violins are playing along with you. When you see solo, that means it's just you, babe. Next up, we're moving on to musical moods. So these are character suggestions. They're a little bit more abstract, but they definitely do appear in your music. So the first is agitato, which means agitated. Then we have animato, which means animated or lively. This also generally indicates like playing a little bit faster. Next up is cantabile, which means sweetly. It really means like in a singing style, but cantabile, you can just think sweetly. Con brio means with spirit, and again, it indicates to play a little bit faster. Con fuoco means with fire, means to play very loud and very exciting. Con moto means with movement, means again to play a little bit faster. Dolce means sweet. So when we're playing like this, we are generally playing a little bit closer to the fingerboard, tilting our bow hair, not playing too loudly. And espressivo means expressive. So all of that plus a bunch of vibrato. Grazioso means gracefully. Leggero means lightly. Maestoso means majestic. and it generally indicates a little bit of a slower tempo. Risoluto means decisive and strong. You're going to play very loudly here. Sostenuto means sustained. You're going to play the notes for their full value. And tranquillo means calm. So again, a little bit slower, very sweetly, very softly, lots of vibrato. Next, we'll talk about repeats. So DC al fine means that you go back to the beginning of the piece and then you play until you see the word fine, which means the end of the piece. And yes, it's fine, not fine. When you're doing the DC, if there was any repeats in that first part, you do not do them. Similarly, DC al coda means go back to the very beginning and play until you see this, which is a coda symbol. And a coda just indicates the concluding passage of the piece. It's the very, very end. So for the DC al coda, you go back to the beginning, play till you see the coda, and then you go to the coda, and then that's the end of the piece. Similarly, DC al segno means go back to the sign. So you play through the piece, you go back to the sign, which looks like this. It's called a segno. I know my Italian is great. And if you just see the letters DS, it just means go back to the sign, repeat to the sign. Next up, we have ornaments. So the first is a trill. You always trill to the note above the note that's written, depending on the key signature. And it means to play those two notes as fast as possible, as many times as you can within the written note value. A mordent means to play the note that's written, the note above the note that's written, and then back to the written note. So there should be 3 notes total. And an inverted mordent means to play the note that's written, the note below the note that's written, and then back to the note. So again, there's 3 notes total. A turn means to play 5 notes. You start on the note that's written, you play the note above, the note that's written, the note below, and then the note that's written again. So there's 5 total notes. If I had a turn written on the note B, it would sound like this. Depending on the key signature, playing a C or a C sharp. An appoggiatura is a grace note, but the grace note is a non-chord tone, which means you want it to be accented. You want to draw it out, play it a little bit longer, maybe even the same length as the note that comes after it. But it is a grace note that you want to be accented. In contrast, an acciatura is another grace note that you do not want to be accented. A lot of times it'll have a line going through it and you just want to play it as quickly as possible. And our final category is accents. So a sforzando, which can be notated SF or SFZ, means to play the note very loudly and to sustain the note. Marcato, again, means to accent the note, so play the beginning of the note a little bit louder, and to sustain it a medium amount. And finally, tenuto, which looks like this, a line over the note, means to play the note its full value. If you see tenutos underneath a slur, it means to stop your bow a little bit between each note. Whew, that was a lot. So now you know most of the most common Italian musical terms. You can grab your completely free chart of all of these in the description. And if you have a question about a particular term that you came across and you don't know what it is, leave a comment and let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you subscribe before you go.